Hi, I'm Jay Rohr for Film Obsessive, and I'm here with Ray Spivey and Allen Danziger, and we're here to discuss the Weed Hacker Massacre. Thank you for joining me, gentlemen.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having us, Jay.
So tell us about this film. What's it about? It's a horror comedy,
Sure.
correct?
Exactly. Yeah. Alan, of course, is the living icon from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's a lot of you guys still alive, though. Still,
Right, right,
you're
right.
not all 6 feet under. But Alan and I've been friends for about 5, 6 years, and he wanted to do a comedy. And what better thing than to do something that's a homage, a parody of what we're seeing all the time is horror movies made based on the all-time great horror movies, but they just do remakes after remakes there. And we just thought we'd have a little fun with it. At the same time, paying homage to our best, our favorite movies, which of course, for Alan and me, is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So we came with the idea. I think we just kind of both came up with it. But you'd had this head of hair back when he was in his 30s, the fro. And we just started laughing about, well, what if the fro was impenetrable, could save your life, you know? And then it just kind of spun out of control from there. And here we are 2 years later, and the movie comes out Friday. Can't believe it.
And also over the years, I've had people saying that Jerry lives because you don't see my body. You just see the shot that I took in the head. And I think even Elvira or somebody said that you never see his body. So there was the idea of he may be still alive somewhere.
But a legal point is that this has nothing to do with Jerry living, right? It
No,
was just
no, no. Long gone, long gone.
Oh, that's an interesting point. I'd never heard that before, but you're right. He only does just get hit in the head with a hammer, and then that's the last we see of him. And as somebody that's taken a few shots to the head, you could survive that.
But that head of hair, yeah.
I do like the explanation on there. That does because I was going to ask you where was the inspiration for the main character? What was it? Willie Wonders? Uh,
Right.
yeah, with where you got that idea? Well, that you just explained why he has that impenetrable head of hair because he takes a bullet to it at one point. I don't want to spoil too much of the film for people, but yeah, it's an interesting concept. It's for folks that are joining us. It basically comes down to the Weed Hacker Massacre is about a combination of events all sort of coming together at once. It's people trying to do a remake, a sequel. There's a guy with amnesia who thinks he might be the killer. There's all kinds of twists and turns in the story along the way.
And I think that was the fun of it. You know, as the idea evolved, and we decided to follow the exploits of this doomed film crew. And all of us who have been on an indie set or any other kind of set knows that it's Murphy's Law. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong. And our one of our lead actors, Bobby Grace, does a great job in playing Renee Carpenter, no relation to John that we know of, but that she's trying her best to put this piece of together and get it to the finish line. She does a great job.
I really did appreciate her consternation throughout, especially as financial difficulties kept diminishing the crew. I like that running gag that runs throughout the film of how like every time she turns around and needs something, they're like, oh no, they just quit because a check just bounced. Which is a problem that I've heard from a lot of independent filmmakers over the years. Like, I have this great idea for something, we have no money for it. So was that something that you're drawing from life experience?
Oh, exactly, exactly. And I remember the first time I did it because I've always kind of worked my whole life in a kind of a business situation, or whatever. And the crew was telling me, "Oh my God, you're paying us at the end of the week." And some of these films we do, we don't get paid till a month or two later. I'm like, "What? How does this model operate?" But they were real happy to get paid weekly.
So this isn't the first rodeo for either of you. And you've both done films together before, correct? I believe Alan, you were in a film, the Storage Locker. This.
Yeah, that's how I met Ray, and he was just so nice. And he asked if he could write a scene for me to be in Storage Locker. And after almost 50 years of not being in the movies, I don't know. I just agreed because I like Ray, and he wrote the scene, and I made it through. Got even a standing ovation. I guess they were just so happy that I could finish the scene.
You did great.
And then as a result of that, then other things have happened. I mean, I've done the voiceover for Cannibal Comedian that's out now. I'm in My Dinner with Leatherface, which is a documentary on Gunnar Hansen, and another documentary called Chain Reactions, which is different takes by like Patton Oswalt and some other directors of how chainsaw has changed, or literally changed their lives or changed cinema. So it was just a confluence of things happening and developing the movie that we just did, the Weed Hacker Massacre.
Right. And it's become so popular now at age 83 with the demand. I can't afford to pay him to make another film. So this could be it. I don't know.
It's no different from how it was with Chainsaw. In fact, the real massacre took place after the movie came out because the movie's making millions, and the people that profited from it were the mafia.
You sure you can say that still?
You can say it.
Oh,
You can say it.
okay.
I'm from Chicago. I know how that goes.
Oh,
So
that's right.
did you have any kind of like a weird like sort of like flashbacks to working with the two different films? Like do you ever get this sort of like sense of nostalgia for like, you were on Texas Chainsaw and then you're on this film, and do you ever like have these moments where you're kind of like it kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of like rhymes or echoes with what you
Deja vu
experienced. Yeah, that's the one.
or Fujade, just the opposite. Like this is nothing like whatever happened before, which is true because I mean, Chainsaw was a small set, very limited number of people. It was brutally hot. I mean, the whole thing was not an easy shoot. And then where I get whacked in the house, I mean, you didn't want to be in that house very long because you had rotting bones, you had rotting meat, you had Leatherface's costume that he wore for like almost 2 months. And all the Febreze in the nation couldn't take the smell out of what was going on there. So it was a lot different. But it was almost like really a big production on Weed Hacker Massacre. I was really amazed at how many people were involved in this movie, and how unflustered or the equanimity that Ray had throughout the whole. Nothing phased him. He was able to handle everything that happened.
Well, our director Jody Stelzig did a great job, and I kept, as the writer, as I was watching all this, and I'm also the producer, I was kind of thinking like, what idiot wrote this script and made it so big? It was me.
Were there ever moments when you were finally getting into production where you had to like sit back and uh make the unfortunate amputation on certain elements? Like, was there anything that you weren't able to get into the film that you were like really hoping?
Yeah, one of our friends, a really great actor, we couldn't hire him because he had just gone SAG, and if we had done this film SAG, it was the stunt people that was going to get us because you have to pay them a very high level rate of pay. And as we were working through it, we had like 15 stunt people on board, and so that is the daily rate would really have broken us. So we couldn't include him in this one. But overall, I think things, we had rainouts and your typical things that go wrong that we had to work around it. And there later on, if we have time, I'll tell you the story about me digging a grave. It was kind of funny. I had to go in there and do one on a Sunday morning. But overall, Alan, don't you think it kind of went pretty well?
Yeah, in fact, after there was a couple of things that need to be tied together, and I think that's my opening scene
Oh, yeah, yeah.
in the movie that Ray wrote that after the movie was completed because there were some gaps, and hopefully that helps bring it together and also gives me more screen time.
That was big.
So besides the obvious, the Texas Chainsaw inspiration, were there any other films that you were sort of taking a page from or inspired by when it came to this, whether horror or comedy?
Sure. I think all the mass killer ones, it's, the producer character does a great job of when the hero's trying to talk him into changing the script. And he says, no, the secret to this is, I forgot what makes a film great. It's not doing something different, but it's doing the same
Same
thing,
thing.
and like a killer that keeps coming back to life. And we're giggling about that. But Yeah, there's homages to one of my favorites, Shaun of the Dead, and you may remember that scene where they're flipping screen slates. That was
Mhm.
kind of like that. And there's some things that are mimicking The Shining. There's an axe through the door and things, but these are all just very light touches, just to give those fans a giggle about those great movies of the past.
Well, it's
like
always
an
great
Easter egg.
when that's what I was gonna say. It's always great when it's a nod or an Easter egg as opposed to just a blatant reshoot of the thing. That's one of the elements of this movie that I did appreciate was there is a certain subtlety to the little nods that you make to other films. I wanted to ask about uh, the design on one of your main, for lack of a better term, villains, the poker face entity throughout it. Who came up with that? Because I really loved that mask. That whole thing was great.
Well, Alan came up with the name. We had kind of done away with some others, and he
Right.
said that, and so then I had to go to work, and
He put the mask together, and I think that was brilliant. The way
oh,
how it
thanks,
looks
thanks.
and how it's woven into the
The
storyline, the
backstory,
backstory. Yeah.
is all that. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of pieces of playing cards are still littered around my house. I can't find them.
I can imagine. Um, when you're working on a production like this, and I'm trying to think about the best way to put this. I write a lot better than I speak, so bear with me. When you're working on something like this, do you ever have any trouble getting across to the cast, like the idea of what you're going for? I mean, I know sometimes that's more of a director's responsibility and so forth, but like, do you feel that everybody got the vibe that you were going for with this film? I guess is where I'm going for.
I think they did. This is one of those films. We made it a point to have a read through. And one of our actors, Parrish Randall, who does a great job as Digger Gunner, told me in all the movies he's been through Indy, including Circus of the Dead, he never had a table reading. And that kind of surprised me. But that helped us iron out a lot of things there initially.
Yeah, I mean, Ray asked me if there was a read through on Chainsaw, and I said there was no read through. In fact, they were changing scenes and constantly. And again, the writers and stuff I think was stoned probably half of the time.
Right. But I think in Weed Hacker, what I tried to do, and especially for Bobby, who plays Renee Carpenter, the director, I tried to write the parts for them, to emphasize their strengths and I've worked with Bobby 3, 4 films now, so
Mm.
I know she's amazing. She can do anything, but I kind of built the character around her and her own personality.
I was wondering about it because of the fact that there's the one character in the film who plays like in the film within the film. Once again, I don't want to spoil too much for people, but in the film within the film, the actor who's portraying the poker face in that one, I loved his sort of pretentiousness with the role. Just
Yes.
overthinking it and all of that. I'm sure that's got to come from some personal experience of some sort.
Yeah, you can't do a film without running into some divas. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, and I think it was just even the mask redesign. We just laughed about like, well, if Hollywood had heard the story and had some descriptions, how would they make the mask? And of course, they'd turn into some big giant Broadway thing. That actor is Matt Purvis, who happens to be Shaquille O'Neal's nephew. So he doesn't want me to say that, but he's just the nicest guy, a great talent, and I thought he did a great job of being pretentious when he's just like in real life the most humble guy ever.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's always good to hear that people are not uh, that it's just a performance.
That's right.
Um, so I like what you're saying about how Hollywood productions they get too big for their own good. Do you find that that's something that you enjoy with independent cinema? Is that you have like a more of a degree of control over it, but like there's a simplicity to it. Like there's more, you say like more direct.
Yeah, I think so. You've had even Chainsaw is probably like the greatest indie film, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you can make those changes on the fly without having to go run it up corporate. That's amazing. And a lot of times because you're so limited in your resources, you're having to invent things all the time. And as we kind of know, when you're under stress, a lot of times, and you come up with a solution, it can be sometimes 5 times more brilliant than the original idea. So, of course, sometimes it can really stink. But I think that's the thrill of indie film is that you're out there, you and some of your closest folks are making decisions, and it happens right away without an accountant attached to your back.
And a comparison is in Chainsaw. There's a scene where Pam is walking up to the house from underneath the swing. Now the suit said you can't do that. They didn't have a budget for it, whatnot. And fortunately, Toby was able to, and Daniel Pearl had come up with some monies, some additional monies where they said, we're making this, we're doing it this way. If you fire us, fine, but we're doing the scene. And that's what I'm saying. Money does play a part.
Yeah, we were with Daniel Pearl out in LA, good friends with Allen, and Daniel talked about that. It's probably the greatest dolly shot in cinematography. He starts under the swing and follows Pam, the victim, behind her. She didn't like it at the time because her rear end was showing the whole time. But the great thing about it is that she looks great,
She's immortalized.
but as she advances toward the house gets bigger and bigger and more ominous.
Ominous, yeah.
And it's a brilliant shot, and they had to fight for that shot like crazy against what?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. In fact, Oliver Stone hired Ed Neal just so he could find out how that shot was done.
Well, that's a bit of trivia. I was not aware of that. That's interesting.
A little tidbit for you there, Jay.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. What was I gonna say? I gotta learn to write things down because I don't have the brain power for this sometimes. Uh, what I was curious about is how did, oh, excuse me. How did you how did you get your career going, Ray? Like, well, what was the first step you took into this broad world of cinema?
Well, it was hilarious. I was, looking up your site and enjoying it last night, and one of your fellow writers had written uh, a a piece on Waiting for Guffman with Chris Guest, and it's his first mockumentary after Spinal Tap, and that's how I kind of got started. They contacted me. I still don't know exactly how. They knew I was a local artist, and they had me paint a painting for that movie. And so I brought it in halfway done. I got to meet Christopher Guest and all the great people that were in Waiting for Guffman, and it was a lot of fun. Just an incredibly funny, engaging, and humble guy. And so then I sat around for a while, and then I decided years later to make a few documentaries, took a screenwriting course locally, read books, and jumped into it. And I think it's you're always learning. You never really have this down, and I'm always amazed at the dumb mistakes I'll make, and I go, why didn't I see that? But I think the good thing is it's getting better, and I think we did a really good job on Weed Hacker. I think the other thing is that everybody on our set had a really, really good time, and they felt like they were family and didn't want to leave Allen. They still call you.
I don't know what they call me, but as long as they don't call me late for supper, that's okay.
Alan, you until recently, you had like sort of stepped away from acting. After Texas Chainsaw, you didn't really go in that direction. What has really brought you back to being in films?
Well, it was just, honestly, it was just a chance occurrence of meeting Ray and him, as I say, taking me off of the heap of whatever happened to. And then as we talked about the different ideas and he came up with the script, it got funnier and funnier. And I said, well, if there's a part for me and you want me to do it. And he came up with Sheriff. I came up with the name Dancing Shoes, which actually is an homage to a friend of mine here in Austin who since passed away, but he had trouble pronouncing my last name. So every time I would come, he would introduce me as, here comes Allen Dancing Shoes. And so we just changed that to Sheriff Dancing Shoes. And that's kind of a running gag throughout the movie.
I was curious about one of the things in the film. How do I put this without ruining it too much? The film comes to an interesting conclusion. There's a possibility that it could continue
Yes.
on. Do you have plans to continue this franchise if possible?
I think it all depends on the fans, right?
Right,
Um,
right.
we I've written some notes, pages and pages of them, and we've actually enjoyed them as we sat down for lunch. Of course, it's easy to amuse ourselves here, but we'll have to see how it all goes. But yeah, there's definitely some of the people, even those that have got killed, want to come back, and we're just like, I don't know. But yeah, I think Sheriff Danziger could write again.
And the thing is, Jay, my name is on it, so I really don't want to have to go into the witness protection program. So I'm hoping that they like it and that they're going to want to see more.
All right. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. So I got to ask you about this grave story. All right, you brought it up, so
Oh yeah.
I'm hoping you'll bring it out.
So we go out to the property a few months before we're going to shoot scouting Chris Miller's property, and it's about 5-6 acres out in south west Austin, and it's very caliche, rough and everything, and you'll see it in the movie. And there's a hole there, and I said, "What's the hole?" He says, "Well, we have a very sick dog, and we had a use of a bobcat, so we went ahead and pre-dug the hole." So I went, aha. So that was perfect because, we had a scene in there where somebody buries themselves. And so we're there, and it's like the night before we're about to shoot, and we're on the property with Chris and his wife. And his wife happens to mention, "Oh, yeah, yeah, we had to bury the dog in there." I said, "But it's not totally filled up." I know, I know. We're kind of using it and we buried a pig in there too. And I'm going, oh my God. Now, Molly Sakonchik, our lead actress, is fantastic. She's very tough, black belt in jujitsu. And I said, but I can't bury her in that hole. That's just not safe and everything like that. So that next morning, I got there early all by myself, and it was tough because I was completely out of shape. I dug another grave about 10 feet away from it, but I was going like, oh man, that pig and that dog just kind of ruined my Sunday.
Hey, I don't want to imply anything about myself, but it is hard to dig a grave.
Yes.
I'm just saying, it's more exhausting than people.
How many bodies have you done, Jay?
Well, let's just say there's a reason people think that I
No,
kill
I'm kidding.
teenagers in the woods.
Yeah.
Um, that's a standing joke with people
We're
when it
kidding
comes
you.
to me
Right, right.
dating. So what about this cast? Where did you pull them all in from? Was it just your general casting situation, or have you worked with a lot of these people before?
Yeah, some of them are experienced actors and they've played parts in previous movies, and it's almost like a little bit of a school where we try to graduate them. Molly, who plays Candy Kersey, and she was a little bit part in Storage Locker, and I went up to her and said, "Were you in theater in high school?" Or because she was so good. She said, "No, she wasn't. It's just kind of a natural." And so I had that in my mind. Let's see if we can get her. David Trevino, who plays Willie Wonder, is a graduate in from Texas A&M and acting. Bobby Grace is an actor. Mike Gassaway, who plays Mayor Dick, is a full-time actor.
I told you about Parrish.
That's right. And you told me about Parrish, Circus of the Dead. He's got a great following in horror films. But we try to get people who are not actors and give them those kind of roles that they can handle. And if they get better, just like if I do another film, would love to have them. But I thought they did such a great job in this film. I don't think anybody, I mean, you can kind of tell they might be a little rough around the edges, but I thought they did a great job overall.
I was also hoping to have Grandpa from Chainsaw,
Yeah.
John Dugan, in for a part with me as a deputy. Unfortunately, he had a knee replacement, so he wasn't able to. But if we get to do a sequel, I'm hoping we can bring in a lot of the old timers, to do some cameos.
Oh, that would be nice. I'm sure. I mean, I'd enjoy it. Um, so I'm trying to think here. What was the hardest part of this production?
I think the size of it sometimes got pretty big, and there's a lot of physicality in it for a horror comedy. We got there the last night of shooting, and we're behind schedule, of course, and we're trying to shoot the big fight scene.
Mhm.
Jody Stelzig has done a great job of choreographing. I'm actually kind of acting in the scene, but I'm also co-directing, and we're just trying to. That fight scene's incredibly complex, and we did it with one camera. And and the toughest part was everyone was tired. They wanted to go home. It was 2 in the morning, and you just got to coax them into, come on, throw one more punch. You can do it, but I thought it went pretty well. But that was a challenge that night, and it was cold too, right?
Yeah. And also, I think financially, I mean, Ray carried a lot of the load, and I did what I could. So it's always a concern or a problem is raising money for films, because most of them don't make it.
Did we spend all the millions you made off the original Chainsaw, or what? You still have some left?
My first royalty check from Chainsaw, I think I could go to McDonald's a couple of times.
Oh, well, I mean, but you got somebody coming in from Chainsaw Jerry, right?
Yeah, yeah, your merch.
Oh yeah,
He's
yeah,
got
yeah.
you got the bobblehead,
T-shirts,
t-shirts.
posters. I've got my own beef jerky that on the blade it says "We were the meats."
Oh, I gotta get some of that for a friend of mine. He'll love that.
Yeah, you can just go to my website, chainsawjerry.com, and there's all kinds of photos and stuff like that. And this is just, I mean, we just celebrated our 50th anniversary a year ago. So I'm still now in traveling mode with Weed Hacker and Chainsaw. I'll be going to North Carolina next week, and I'll be with Britton Buchanan, who wrote the music for some of the great songs in this movie. And I met him some years ago. He was runner up on The Voice, and when he was 18, and he did a podcast with me, and we became good friends. And he wrote some of the songs in the movie, and
Did a great
they're
job.
great. They're
Yeah,
great.
really are.
Is that who's responsible for there's sort of like a folk tune that goes
That's
with
it.
the movie? Is that who's
Yeah.
responsible for that? Because that was fantastic. I enjoyed that.
Right.
Yeah, he
Um,
did. He's amazing.
oh, excuse me.
Maybe he could join your band.
Oh, hey, there we go. Bring him up to Chicago. We'll have a conversation. We'll see if we can get on the same page.
Sounds
Um,
good.
I was curious about comedy is always a tricky thing, like figuring out what's going to work and whether or not it's going to translate to other people. I've personally had a lot of situations where things that I thought were funny, other people did not agree. So, did you ever have trouble like getting a joke to land like the way you wanted it to? I mean, you can't guarantee that everybody's going to love it, but I mean, within the
That's it.
context of working on the film, was everybody like, "Yep, I got you, and this is what we're going to do"?
No, no, you're exactly right about getting jokes to land, and you're sitting there writing them in your own home, and you're laughing yourself silly, deluding yourself. And, and you get on set, and people I think are nice, and they try to they laugh or have a good time, or you think on set, wow, that joke really lands, and then you do some testing, and it may not. We pulled a lot of jokes out of this, so jokes were rotating, and I learned a lot from Conan O'Brien and Nikki Glazer about that time because they were doing their the Oscars, and she was doing the Tom Brady roast, and I read more and more about how they would test their jokes in comedy clubs. I didn't have that luxury, but we tried to test them as much as we could. And yeah, there's some jokes that are going to bomb in this for people. And then there are some jokes that, we've had so many people just say, I just roll over on the floor laughing out and laughing out loud. And I think the most important thing is if you can keep the jokes to that character as opposed to just being a one liner.
Being authentic. Being
Yeah, that
authentic
really
to the
helps.
character.
Yeah. Like you
Yeah,
being a New Yorker and Texans hate Yankees, right?
String them up.
Boy, they do.
that's one of the things I think one of the strongest things about a lot of the comedy in the film is the fact that it doesn't rely too much on parody. And I think that's a great thing because it makes it its own film. And because a lot of times parody, you can lose people because they don't get the reference. Was that like a conscious choice to make sure like, we're just gonna stick to our own material and avoid that realm?
I wanted to definitely keep all of our lawyers' warnings in mind. So I wanted to be sure that we tried to keep everything as original as we could while, giving hints of these other movies. But we really wanted it to be a very original in our mind script and different from all the things that are out there. I even really like the fact that some of our kills are original, and of course Alan's got his favorite one there, the what's the
The one that you think you're at Jersey Mike's. That's where they
with the
just
slicer.
slicing the head. That's one of my favorites. And also the W reference on Gunners. That's another thing because that's a Texas-based, restaurant chain that started here.
And you dated her, didn't you? The daughter?
Yeah, the daughter years ago. In fact, I referred to her as the Princess of Whataburger. Terrific young lady.
Well, is there anything else that you'd like to tell us about this film? Is it hitting any festivals, or what's the situation? Where are people most likely going to be able to see this?
Yeah, we start on Friday
nationally.
nationally, world premiere, I guess, in a way. Digitally, we're going to be on Tubi, Amazon Prime, Fandango at home, and a whole list of other platforms. But Tubi is free, as you know, and it's great for folks. And they probably will have to watch some ads with some kind of
Right.
health insurance. I don't know.
But there are about 15 or 20 other channels, and Buffalo 8 is our distributor,
That's right. Done a
and
great
they've done
job
a
with
great
us.
job of helping to promote it. And so whatever you can do to help people, so that they want to watch the movie,
Yeah.
we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, we've done the film festivals and won a bunch of awards. In fact, yesterday I was unexpected. We won an award from the Los Angeles International Horror Film Fest, and I wasn't even expecting it. I'd forgotten about it, but it was nice of them to recognize us. So we've been working real hard this last couple of years.
Well, congratulations. I mean, it all came together and you got it out there. That's more than some people do. It's more than I'm doing, I'll tell you that much. So, my hat's off to you both for
Thank you,
accomplishing
Jim.
this. And yeah, we're gonna try to let people know that it's out there, the Weed Hacker Massacre, and we're
And,
trying to
and
get some eyes
Jay, I
on
was just
this.
going to say, years ago, I grew up in New York, and I used to take the D train to to City College, and people asked me how did I get to Texas, and I told them I got on the wrong train, ended up here, and I mean, it's just a confluence of how does a kid from the Bronx end up in arguably the greatest horror movie of all times. But anyway, I used to read reviews of movies, and a fellow by the name of Archer Winston years ago reviewed a Chainsaw, and typically he would give out stars for movies: 3 stars, 4 stars, 1 star. He said Chainsaw owed stars. That's how much he hated that movie. And he's gone. Quentin Tarantino referred to it as a perfect movie. So you never know. You never know.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love that. I love that attitude, and I hope that things work out the best for both of you.
Thank you very much. We
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks
it.
for asking. Love the shirt, by the way.
Oh,
Very
thank
nice.
you. There.